High Chief Michael Kayode Ajayi. Well, for me, I see it as a right step in the right direction. Although it's coming too late, it ought to have been done long time ago. I foresaw this thing in 2016 at a public lecture that I delivered at the Chartered Institute of Credit Administration, where I was asked to give a speech. I made it very clear that Nigeria was witnessing excess liquidity that was putting undue pressure on the Naira. But as at that time, nobody saw it. What made it at that time for Nigerians not to notice this excess liquidity was that the dollars made by Jonathan was still fresh in the account. It was not used as such. Then we had a lot of dollars in the excess crude account. And so it made it impossible for Nigerians to see what I saw in 2016. I recommended in that speech that the CBN governor and Nigerian government should find a way to mop up this excess liquidity, not through the traditional method of imposing CRR, which the CBN governor has just imposed, and that they should change the color of the Naira, because President Modi of India did the same thing. American government changed the $100 note, changed the color of the $100 note from black to sky blue. In fact, of recent, Venezuela did their own in 2020. So when you have excess liquidity in the system, and you want to reset the economy, right, and you notice that there's high level of corruption, the best thing is to change. A patriotic government will change the design of the Naira. This will make it possible for the central government to suck in the excess liquidity and begin to control the release of the money into the economy. And that time, our Naira will have more value. That is the situation of Nigeria. So the central bank governor taking this step is a right step in the right direction. And you can see the excess liquidity has made Naira to be worthless. He has imposed 32% CRR. That is, banks are to deposit certain percentage of their money with central bank compulsorily, which is about close to about 6 trillion Naira or thereabout. But after doing that, it has still not solved the problem of the Naira. Naira was nosediving again. And he came out to tell us that 80% of the money that is supposed to be in circulation are hidden somewhere. It's not in the banking vault. So he has to take this extraordinary step to bring in that 80% into the bank. Without that, there's no way he can correct the economy. There's no way Naira can appreciate in value, because the money was too much. In fact, it is alleged that the total money in circulation is over 320 trillion Naira. That is too much. And the CBN governor never followed the norm of not printing Naira through ways and means above the 5% benchmark of the previous year's GDP. But in this case, he has overprinted through a lot of means. When Mr. Obaseki, the governor of Edo State, saw this, he cried out. But they asked him to shut up. The CBN and other politicians asked him to shut up. But he was being patriotic, in spite of the fact that he was a beneficiary of the money being shared to states. So, again, the NNPC that ought to bring in dollars is no longer bringing dollars anymore. The dollar they earn is used to buy finished product, that is PMS, import petrol, derivatives from crude oil. Is no longer there, because all the refineries are dead. And that is the beginning of our crisis. If NNPC is earning dollar and we are not importing fuel, we'll have enough dollar in the system, and that will stabilize the economy. So Emefiele has taken the right step, which I commend, even though it's too late. He himself contributed to the collapse of the same thing he's trying to cure through some steps. One, he went about devaluing the currency. And devaluation does not fit into the economic structure of Nigeria. Chief Obafemi Awolowo said this as much in 1984 or 1983 when Shagari approached the National Assembly for Emergency Economic Powers. In the press conference Chief Obafemi Awolowo delivered at Murtala International Airport, he took steps to educate Nigerians. He took time to explain this even to a fool, a moron, who should understand. And why does it not fit into our economic structure? I will explain that. The objective of devaluation, what is it? To increase the price of your import such that the value of your import, the price will be high, so that it will discourage importation of goods, thereby conserving your foreign reserve. On the export side, it will reduce the price of your export so that you can export more and earn a lot of foreign exchange. But what do we export more in this country? It is crude oil, which contributes about roughly between 70 to 80% of our GDP. Now, we operate we operate within the OPEC that seals the price. Seals the quantity you can produce. So if it does seals the price, that's for instance asking you that you should not print more than you should not export more than 1.2 million barrels per day, and you devalue your currency, which reduces the price of your export. Crude oil is one of our exports. If you are operating within OPEC, you cannot reduce your price. You can also not increase your export. So where lies the gain? Where lies the gain? That is the question I begin to ask Mr. Emefiele. Since he assumed office, he has been devaluing and devaluing and devaluing and devaluing. It's just like a man who has one single room and you start dividing it. It will get to a point that even those occupants of that room will have nowhere to stand. So devaluation has destroyed the economy of this country more than it gains. Another step he took was to be printing Naira through ways and means. So you are printing Naira through ways and means. You are also devaluing the currency. Of course, what is the net effect of this? Naira must fall. Besides, there's this extra budgetary spending through also ways and means. And this he does through his baby feeding approach, interventionist policies, anchor borrowers program, 350 billion. Monies released to aviation sector, to the airlines. Money released to the energy sector, to the gencos and discos and so on and so forth. It has not all this good on paper, but it has not brought any succor or relief to the common man. Go to the airport, we have lesser planes in spite of the billions of naira pumped into it. The anchor borrowers program has not brought food on the table of the common man. The price of rice today is about 45,000 naira per bag. So you now ask, Mr. Emefiele, where is the success of this baby feeding approach? It has failed. So 3 things he did to destroy the naira: devaluation, excess printing of money through ways and beyond the benchmark of 5% of the previous year GDP, and thirdly, through his baby feeding approach, extra budgetary spending through his interventionist policies. All these combined help to destroy the naira. And thank God he has seen the light and he wants to redeem these steps. And the step he has taken has attracted critics who felt that naira is falling again. Of course, on the short run, we should expect that, because he has given a deadline that by January 31st, the current naira as it is, the 1,000 denomination, the 200 denomination, and the 500 will no longer be legal tender. So those who have stolen money and stacked them somewhere, say, will be finding it difficult to get this money into the bank through the legitimate means. If they successfully, out of 10 billion, you can manage to get 2 billion inside, what of the 8 billion? So the next step is for these people to go to the Bureau de Change and change their money at any rate. They will want to change their money at any rate. That is what is presently happening. It does not mean that the step taken by Mr. Emefiele will destroy the Naira. No, it is going to save the Naira on the long run. By January 31st, it will begin to stabilize. And again, it will stabilize on one condition, or some conditions. One, the baby feeding approach of Mr. Emefiele through releasing funds for interventionist policy must stop if we want to achieve success. Secondly, he should stop the devaluation of the Naira. Leave it as it is. Let it balance up. And I also want to put this to the next coming government. The next coming government should not go the way we are going now. They should adopt zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting will prevent the padding of the budget as it is. Just recently, a professor heading the ICPC said that the current budget has been over-padded by 400 billion naira. This 400 billion naira, if this budget is approved, is going back to the BDC, thereby putting more pressure on the Naira. So, the new government should come in with a zero-based approach. The current budget should be reviewed. Let every ministry come and defend the budget through a zero-based budgeting approach. Some critics have started poo-pooing the policy of Mr. Emefiele. The Honorable Minister of Finance claimed in her appearance before the Senate Committee on Finance that she was not consulted, that maybe the committee should invite Emefiele. Emefiele has not done anything wrong. He has acted within the purview of the 2007 CBN Act as amended. He owes nobody any explanation after receiving the presidential approval. In 1973, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the late sage, granted a television interview and said when he was trying to change the Naira, only 3 people knew about it. Himself, being the Minister or Commissioner for Finance, and the Vice Chairman of the Federal Executive Council, the President, the Head of State at that time, General Yakubu Gowon, and the CBN Governor. The change of that Naira at that time was at his own initiative under a military regime, and being the Vice Chairman of the Federal Executive Council, next person to administratively to General Gowon. And that was why he got to, because he was the initiator. But in this case, the Minister of Finance is not the initiator of this change. So what sin has Emefiele committed, not consulting her? Once the president has granted approval, he has been able to convince the president of the objective, he should go ahead. We should give him the necessary support. The members of the National Assembly owe a duty to support Mr. Emefiele. And one of the offshoots is the emergence of the Muslim cleric, Sheikh Gumi, who was also criticizing this novel policy that it is going to make the kidnappers a tiny, irritant community to begin to demand for dollars after kidnapping. I do not know if Sheikh Gumi is their spokesperson or if Sheikh Gumi knows their mind or advising them. Is he advising them to begin to demand for dollars? That is the question. In fact, the security agency should be inviting him to come and explain this. To the extent that he was holding a press conference to say that is unfortunate. The Emefiele has done the right thing. He did the wrong thing in the past, and he has now retracing the step to redress the Naira. If he does not do so, Naira is going to 1,000 Naira per dollar very soon. I predicted this in 2016 that Naira will be $1 to 500 Naira. Today, it has even surpassed that. We are talking of 780 Naira. That is terrible. The fall of the value of the Naira will continue to increase. As you devalue it, you continue to increase your national debt and external debt. You are going to be paying more. So, I want to commend Mr. Emefiele for this. I'm his critic, and I commend him for this step. But he has to retrace his step. He has not been a very good CBN governor for me. In fact, I used to say that he read his economics upside down. But now that he's trying to read it in an appropriate manner, every Nigerian owes a duty to support him. He should raise his head and focus on what he's doing. No more excess printing of Naira through ways and means. Beyond the 5% benchmark of the GDP of the previous year's GDP. The baby feeding approach, extra budgetary spending should stop. The energy sector that he has been baby feeding should find, they have bought the enterprises, they should find money to fund it. The airline that is baby feeding should find a way to look for money and fund their airlines. For the common man, they have not stacked billions of naira in their houses. Where would they even get the billions of naira? Those who are benefiting from subsidy, they told us we are consuming 110 or 20 million liters PMS per day, when we all know that it is false. It is absolute. Senator Saraki raised this at the floor of the House when he was there, and was even querying the 30 million liters or 33 million liters they said we are consuming. At the end of the day, we found out that we are not consuming that, and now it's the same thing. They are saying we are consuming 120 million liters per day, which is false, and they pay subsidy. The subsidy is part of what is stacked at home. So for the common man, I can assure you that the impact will be minimal. What I expect the central bank to do at this moment is to embark on massive public enlightenment of the common man, of the public, I mean, so that they know what to do. Another important aspect is the role of ICPC and EFCC in this matter. The anti-corruption agencies. The success of what Mr. Emefiele has done rests on their shoulders. They must begin to monitor the bankers, the bank managers that want to ensure that they get money through the back door. They should look at how the common man can easily change his money without sweat. Because we know that the queue will be long, how the banks will make sure that the queues are not long and the common man does not faint in the queue while changing his money. It is very important. So we are expecting that the head of EFCC should begin to monitor the BDCs, who are the conduit pipe of corruption in Nigeria. Once the last time they monitored it, Naira dropped, and Naira appreciated. So they should put their flashlight on that place, and then the banks. Once they do that, the success that we're expecting on this policy will be there, and that will help. So nobody should think that it is the business of Mr. Emefiele alone to make this policy succeed. It is the business of every Nigerian. It is the business of the National Assembly. It is the business of ICPC. It is the business of EFCC. If it fails, it means the EFCC has failed, ICPC has failed. You see, thank you for that question. What is responsible for the fall of the Naira is excess liquidity. It's just the simple principle of demand and supply. When you have excess Naira chasing few dollars, what do you expect? Naira the value will fall. More so when NNPC used to be the cheap supplier of dollars, no longer supplying dollars. So that is the way you now rely on Nigerian Post Authority, the end dollars, and other agencies that end dollars. That is not enough, and then foreign transfer of dollars from Nigerians working abroad. That is the only way you get dollars, which is not enough to solve our dollar crisis in Nigeria. So we want to see that the dollar situation, if you take all the steps I have enumerated, if you don't have excess pressure of Naira over dollar, the situation is soft. It's soft. And let me also say that on the short run that I mentioned earlier, that they were going to approach the BDCs. Now you are going to see these people that have stacked money in their rooms or elsewhere or shock away, going into realtors. They begin to approach estate owners. That is because that is the only conduit again they can get money to the banks. So it is the role of the FCC to look at this. It is the role of ICPC it's a big assignment for them to begin to help the economy and to begin to help Mr. Emefiele. Yes, a lot of, even some people went to the extent that this is not the appropriate time for Mr. Emefiele to talk of redesigning of the Naira. And I asked the question, what is the appropriate time? They should tell us. Some people say, oh, because it is closer to the election. But we say we don't want money politics. So has he done anything wrong in that respect? The answer is no. It doesn't mean that the politician will still not spend money, but they'll be spending the new money. That is it. If they have stacked money elsewhere, then he has said, the 47 days window, take your money to the bank. So you can still withdraw it and spend. And for your campaigns. So that is it. So the timing, as far as I'm concerned, they have not told us what better time to institute this policy. So for the common man, you should jubilate. Because if the dollar peaks, I mean, if the Naira peaks, it's going to affect your real income. Your real income is the quantum of goods and services that your money income can buy at a given time. It's going to improve your real income. It's going to improve your money income. And again, the importation of drugs, medical equipment, hospitals are already crying. No drugs, prescription drugs are very expensive, medical equipment are very expensive. So if the Naira appreciates, obviously, we expect a better living condition even for the employees. But if Naira continues to fall as it's going, and the real income of the workers is falling, it is mandatory, it's ipso facto that the workers will begin to demand for increase in salary. And that will again is going to be solved through ways and means. Well, this episode I have spoken about the redesigning of national currency, the Naira, by the CBN, which is a noble step. There are other episodes that are coming where I'll be talking on national security, national politics, and the national economy. I remain yours sincerely, High Chief Michael Kayode Ajayi, a public analyst, economic analyst, and a security analyst.